Alright everybody, welcome back to another video on the channel today. It's Sunday, and I hope everyone had a great Shabbos. On Sundays, we read Breslov history and stories and inyanim and different things like that. We've been doing that for the last 3-4 months, every single Sunday. We've been learning from a sefer called Siach Surfei Kodesh, which is a Breslov sefer of stories and other information that you may not have heard of. And it's all very interesting. And we've been learning about Rav Noson recently. For the last few weeks, we got to a section in the Sefer. It kind of jumps from person to person and topic to topic. It's just very interesting stuff. So let's keep on reading where we left off from last week. It says one time that Rav Noson was getting ready to pray in the morning, and he had his talus over his shoulder before putting it on. Right, and one of the Chassidim was telling Rav Noson a story about a tzaddik, Rabbi Yeva me Ostra, who was a Talmud of the Toldos of Yosef. That one time Rabbi Yeva went to get tzedakah. Right, he wanted to go get tzedakah for people or for himself, whatever it was, and he went into the house of a rich person to ask him for money. And the Gvir, this rich guy, did not want to give him the money. And Rabbi Yeva went, and he did a mitzvah, and then he came back to the house of the Gvir, and he asked him again for tzedakah, and then the Gvir gave him money. And Rabbi Yeva explained that the reason is because he did a mitzvah which made his face sha'asa kibel panim acheres. His face became different because he did the mitzvah. Not like physically different, but like spiritually different, that another human could perceive on somebody's face that like they did a mitzvah. Right? Therefore, when he asked tzedakah again from the rich guy, right? The rich guy gave it to him. So Rav Noson became very excited when he heard the story, and he put on his talus. And then after he put on his talus, he stuck his face out from underneath the talus, and he said to the Chassidim, "Do you see that I already have like a different face?" Meaning that he was trying to do the same thing that the guy in the story did. He did a mitzvah, so he wanted to show that now you have a different face after you do a mitzvah in the Torah. So that's very cool. Rav Noson said, Rabbeinu forbade us from doing any fasts and sigufim. Sigufim are the old minhag of the early Chassidim, that they would kind of hurt themselves in a way to do tshuva. They would roll around in the snow naked. They would do a lot of other things, but we don't do those things anymore. The Baal Shem Tov after a while stopped it, and Rabbi Nachman and a lot of other people also did, but at the beginning, that's what they used to do. But Rav Noson says that even though Rabbeinu, said that we shouldn't do these things, but obviously when a tainus comes, that we're supposed to fast, like it says in the Shulchan Aruch, you're supposed to fast a few different times a year for Asar B'Tevis, which is coming up. This year it's on a Friday, which is actually pretty interesting, and Shavas B'Tammuz and Yom Kippur and all these things, obviously, right? So we have to. We have to grab it like a nice piece of cake, even though you can't eat the cake, but you have to grab this fast. It's a good thing to do, because you're not supposed to fast in general, but if you have to fast according to the Shulchan Aruch, like the way that we fast in halacha a few times a year, so each of those fasts should be very, very important in our eyes, and we should use them to the best of our ability to do tshuva and things like that. Rabbi Nachman Tulchinar told over and he one time saw how Rav Noson was learning the Torah after Chatzos. He was learning Torah late at night after Chatzos. He was learning the Torah Ki Mirachmam Yinhagim, which is in Likutei Imran, the second Chelek, Siman Zayin. He was learning it with such a slavus. It seemed that he was learning it with such a slavus that it seemed to Rabbi Nachman Tulchinar that Rav Noson was actually listening to Rabbeinu saying it over at that moment, even though it was after Rabbi Nachman had passed away already and had said his Torah. one time, it says over here, Be'eshe dacha mimenu Rabbeinu, Shtei yodav es achiv shal Rabbi Yitzchak mechrashvita. Right? Who's achiv? His brother? Shal Rabbi Yitzchak. I don't know. It says over here that Rabbi Nachman pushed away somebody's brother. The brother of Rabbi Yitzchak mechrashvita, whoever this guy was. And Rabbeinu pushed him out of the room. Rabbeinu said, go away, whatever. I don't know why exactly. And when he was leaving, whatever, he was walking back out of the city, whatever it was, he met Rav Noson. And he told Rav Noson what happened, that Rabbi Nachman pushed him, whatever. And Rav Noson said to him, this is what you call pushing? Right? He said, even if Rabbeinu would push me up into the ceiling or out of or onto the roof or whatever, like I'm saying, even if you'd push the whole building away, you think I would leave Rabbi Nachman? I mean, even if Rabbi Nachman pushes you out, you have to come back in. One time somebody came to Rav Noson and he said to him, he says that when he learns the Sefer Reishis Chachma, he gets very, very depressed. Right? And he asked Rav Noson what he should do. And Rav Noson says, the Baal Reishis Chachma did not write his words to make you depressed. If you can't learn the Sefer without being depressed, then don't learn it. There's a very important point, I think also. He said the Reishis Chachma didn't write it that you should become depressed. He wrote it so that you should be a better Jew. So Rav Noson was saying, if you're not at that level yet, then don't learn it. One time the Chassidim told Rav Noson, there was a story that they were telling over Rav Noson about one of the students of the Baal Shem Tov who would fast from Shabbos to Shabbos. And one time, in the middle of the week, he got so hungry, right? He got so hungry that he was not able to even wait 1 second. He took the matzah that was inside the shul that they used for Erev Chatzeres, and he ate it, right? Afterwards, when people came to shul, they saw that the matzah was not whatever they left it there for the Erev Chatzeres. They looked and they didn't find it, and they figured out that he ate it, and they embarrassed him so much, and because he had such chalishas hadas in this, he fell completely away from Judaism. He went off. And Rav Noson said, that this guy did not have enough hischaskus. He should have thought to himself, like, what did I do so bad? I only ate matzah. I didn't eat treif. I ate matzah. Right? And this is already after a few days that I was inside fasting, and I ate a piece of matzah that happened to be the Erev Chatzeres. I'm sorry, whatever, but I'm saying Rav Noson was saying to this guy, he was saying about this guy that he didn't have enough hischaskus. That if somebody does an avera, and he thinks like, that's it, it's over, and that's it, I'm like the worst person, there's no hope for me, I'm out, I'm done, I can't do this anymore. Saying Rav Noson says you have to have hischaskus. Like, okay, so I did something, if you do a real avera, fine, you do something bad, but you can always come back from it. This guy, what did he do? He just ate matzah. So what was his pshat that he went off? You have to have chizik, you have to have hischaskus. One time, when Rav Noson was in the city of Tarvitz, he was there for Shabbos, right? Because he used to go wherever Rabbi Nachman went. Rabbi Nachman went in his life to Tarvitz for a Shabbos, so also Rav Noson would go and spend Shabbos in the place where Rabbi Nachman used to spend Shabbos too. The same Seder every year. Diber v'hiflik v'shfach gedulasay shel Rav mi Berditchev. He was speaking very highly about the Berditchever. And while he was speaking, one of the Chassidim, Rabbi Yitzchak Ber, stood up and started davening his Slavas Kedarkoi, and Rav Noson said to the Chassidim, Gam koyam yeshanu Rav mi Berditchev, it's bi'al Rabbi Yitzchak Ber. He says, also today we also have a person that's like the Berditchever. and he pointed his finger at this guy, Rabbi Yitzchak Ber, who was davening. Haint ob mir eicha barditche varuv. Rav Noson commanded his son to travel to Eretz Yisrael after he was 60 years old, right? And the Chassidim say they did this b'kavana ki when he went up to Eretz Yisrael, when he went up to Eretz Yisrael when he was 60, he only lived in Eretz Yisrael for a year and a half, right? And what's it called? Hu niftar b'shnas taf reish lamed, and he's buried in the cemetery in Tzfas. Here in Tzfas, he's buried in the cemetery next to the Beis Yosef, next to Rabbi Yosef Cairo. And he's buried there. Why? Because they didn't have any. There was no open spots at all in the cemetery, right? Except in that place of the Beis Yosef. And one of the Chevra Kadisha said the Beis Yosef made the Shulchan Aruch ben Nigla, and this guy's father, Rabbi Yitzchak, who was Rav Noson, made the Chibur Thukutei Halachos, which is Shulchan Aruch al Pisoid. So therefore, he should be buried next to him. I also heard that they also, when they were burying him, there was like a big storm and they couldn't see anything, and they just had to find a place and they put him there. But yeah, that's crazy stuff. Yeah, he's right next to the Beis Yosef, in between the Beis Yosef and the Arizal, inside the cemetery. So that's very special. And Rabbi Nachman's daughter is nearby too. When the Breslovers came to Rav Noson for Shavuos, right, they would come a day early so that they would all be together on the last night of Sfira to say the last bracha of Sfira with Soirus Upachad, right? And the whole city, like, there would be this huge Soirus and sings. Everybody would hear their voices and screamings of the last Sfira Zomer. It said that all the store owners in Breslov would close their stores already in the early evening to get ready for this last bracha. That's how big of a deal it was, which is pretty crazy. One time Rav Noson came back from Uman after Rosh Hashanah to the city of Breslov, which was a smaller city. And he said, "Yesh gezer b'shamayim al ir Breslov shishtalchu menu arbayim anashim v'lo yadayim mihim." There's a gezerah from Shemayim in the city of Breslov that soon 40 men are going to die, and I don't know who they are. And there was a great pachad in the city. That's all it says. I don't know what happened with that. Two more pieces. One time in the Tfilas Ne'ilah of Yom Kippur, when Rav Noson was saying the Tevas, Leman nechtal me'oshik yedenu, he said it in such a great scream, right? And after Yom Kippur finished, Rabbi Nachman said to him, "Ein adavar kasha kolkach, ki kifitza kasay hay nirish ein tikva l'shuv me'oshik yedenu l'pisir Rabbeinu b'chach." So, because he was saying, like, Rav Noson was basically saying, it's like, it's very hard for me to return to Hashem. He was screaming, and Rabbeinu said, "No, it's not so. He said it's not so hard." Because it seemed from the way that Rav Noson was screaming that he had no tikva, he had no hope at all, l'shuv me'oshik yadenu, to return from whatever he did bad. But Rabbeinu said, "No, you could," and he gave him whatever, and he told him how to do it. I think that's what he's talking about. The last Rosh Hashanah of Rav Noson, of his life, he did not enter in at the Zman Kavu, at the set time to say Torah, like he did every year. Rabbi Ephraim ben Rabbi Naftali came into his room to ask him about this, and Rav Noson says, I don't feel good, like I Pasha can't, right? And after Rosh Hashanah, Rav Noson said to Rabbi Nachman Tulchiner, because he said the real reason why he didn't say is because he saw that there was some anash that didn't come to the kibbutz. The only reason why they came to the kibbutz is to hear Rav Noson say Torah. Al-Kain, right? What's going to be when I'm not alive? and there's not going to be anyone to say Torah, so they're all going to stop coming, right? The whole point of coming is because Rabbi Nachman said to come, and not if this guy's saying Torah or this guy's saying Torah, whatever it is, right? Al kain b'chavana lo yomar Torah kidei sheyedu anash tzrichim l'skabed yachdo bir Rosh Hashanah afilu b'li Torah, right? Because this is exactly how Rabbeinu wanted it to happen. All right, last one over here. Rabbeinu Tziva, Rabbi Nachman commanded Rav Noson that he should try to be mechadish eze chiddush b'chol yom. He should try to make up something new every day, chiddush in Torah, chiddush in Allah, whatever it was. V'kach noig marnat kol yom echayev, and Rav Noson was noig to do this all his life. The Siper shoyer Erev Shabbos acha shlo yischadish lo shum chiddush. And there was one time it was Erev Shabbos and he didn't mischadish anything. The Yitzhasi and I went out to outside the city and I davened to Hashem. And I squeezed out a little chiddush from my small finger. I got a little chiddush. So you always try to make a little chiddush. Rav Noson is big, always doing big things. We continue next week with more stories of Rav Noson, and we will also learn this week some Hanukkah stories, I hope, for Hanukkah, and everything should be great. Have a great day.